Right, I am back from Samsung where I've just been hands-on with the brand new Galaxy S25 series, which to no one's surprise includes the Galaxy S25, the S25 Plus, and the flagship S25 Ultra. So as quick as I can, what's changed, what's new, and should you buy one? And make sure you hit that subscribe button because my full reviews and loads of comparisons are coming very soon. So what's new this year? Well, for starters, we have the latest and greatest Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy processors across the entire range, and that's globally, as well as an upgraded Pro Visual engine for better camera performance, plus a new 50 megapixel ultra-wide exclusively for the S25 Ultra, plus a ton of on-device AI features baked into One UI 7, their latest software. The phones are a touch lighter, we have new colors, they all get Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.3, plus better cooling, courtesy of a bigger vapor chamber. And now all S25s get at least 12 gigs of RAM. Previously, the base model had 8. But as usual, it's the Ultra that's had the most love, and this year the S25 Ultra has a 0.1 inch larger screen, so 6.9 up from 6.8, and that's thanks to a reduced bezel around the edge. The display gets even stronger with a slightly improved anti-reflective coating, still one of the most underrated features of the S24, although I can't say I noticed much of an improvement this year, but still very good. What you will notice though are these lovely rounded corners. No longer do we have this boxy, squared off, slightly jabby into your palm corners of the Ultra series. Now it's rounded, it's a bit lighter, it's definitely more comfortable. And for some reason, they've made the little sort of outer edges, the bezels of the camera lenses, a whole lot thicker this year. For some reason. However, there's also a whole lot that hasn't changed versus last year's S24 series, and if I'm honest, I've actually come away from this hands-on a little bit disappointed. For example, the displays and the cameras on the S25 and the Plus are the same. The only camera hardware difference is the new ultra-wide on the Ultra. The battery sizes, the charging speeds, the display brightness, the IP68 rating, the fingerprint sensor, all exactly the same. I had to double check this, but specifically for the Ultra, the battery size, 5000 milliamps, the charging speeds up to 45 watts, and the 12 gigs of RAM and 256 base storage, exactly the same as the S20 Ultra from 5 years ago. However, specs do not tell the full story, and the good news is the price is pretty much the same as last year as well. So before we dive into which one you should buy, if you indeed want to buy one, a quick mention of the specs, because as I say, all three phones now offer the Snapdragon 8 Elite, and that is everywhere. There is no Exynos to be found in the UK or certain markets. Kind of relieved about that, because generally the Exynos hasn't been as good over time, so yep, Snapdragon 8 Elite everywhere, for everyone, for every phone, which is great. And specifically, it's an 8 Elite for Galaxy processor. Once again, they've collaborated with Snapdragon for a specially tuned version of the chip, with a slight overclock and some fine-tuned AI and camera ISP improvements. And so as you would expect, they are super snappy to use. Even versus the S24 Ultra, it did seem a touch more responsive, although One UI 7 might have a lot to do with that. And until it's publicly available on older Galaxy devices, it's hard to know just how much of that snappiness is down to the S25 itself. However, the LTPO technology that we know and love from the screens that has enabled the dynamic refresh rates and much better efficiency, well, now that's changed to a new technology called HOP 3.0, which according to Samsung boosts efficiency and also improves the touch response rate. Samsung says that the NPU is also 40% faster this year with the new chip, which has allowed them to make a lot more of the AI features on device only. Previously it was more hybrid, cloud and on device, now a lot more can be done straight from your phone. So all three phones get this new chip, and all three phones are a touch lighter this year. The S25 is 6 grams lighter, the Plus 7 grams, and the Ultra a whopping 15 grams lighter, which is just about noticeable. Okay, let's talk about the S25 Ultra. It's the only phone to have increased the screen size from 6.8 to 6.9 inches thanks to 15% thinner bezels, and these new curved corners definitely make it more comfortable to hold. Brightness hasn't changed though, we're still talking 1500 nits in high brightness mode and maxing out at 2600 nits in peak HDR. The new Ultra is protected by the new Corning Gorilla Armor 2 glass, which is 29% more resistant to cracks than the S24 Ultra. The anti-reflective coating has returned and apparently improved, although side by side with last year's model I couldn't see much of a difference. And also it's worth noting you still don't get this anti-reflective screen on the regular S25 or the Plus. And as for improved cooling, the Ultra now gets a 40% larger vapor chamber along with a custom thermal interface material, or our friend TIM, which Samsung reckons will boost heat dissipation by 8%. As I say though, prices are identical to last year's S24 Ultra, as is the RAM, 12GB, and the storage, 256 for the base model, of which you can pay a whole lot more to get 512 or 1TB. All the same as before, as is the battery. This was probably the most disappointing thing that I saw coming out of the hands-on. It's still rocking a 5,000 mAh battery, which they've been using for the past 5 years. And when you consider the OnePlus 13 has a 6,000 mAh battery, the new Oppo and Honor phones, and basically every other Android phone out there has something in the sort of mid 5,000s up to 6,000 mAh range. They've all got significantly bigger with dual cell batteries and silicon carbon designs and much faster charging. Still 5,000, still topping out 45 watts charging. Samsung say we can expect about an hour extra video playback time across all 3 phones, but that equates to a single-digit percentage improvement. And it gets worse. They have removed Bluetooth from the S Pen without any explanation why. Apparently there is an explanation, but they didn't want to tell me at the time. So while you can still do hover movements and it's still an S Pen in every other way, you can't now use remote features via Bluetooth, which also means you can no longer do this. You've lost the ability to use it as a remote shutter. That's a shame. Baffling. Anyway, moving on, and let's talk about the camera, because the Ultra is the only one of the new S25 series to get new camera hardware, and that's courtesy of the new 50 megapixel ultra wide, up from 12 megapixel before. The new ultra wide also has a larger sensor. It can shoot in 8K, and because we have that 4 times increase in resolution, it also means that your macro shots are now 4 times more detailed. And with a quick side-by-side, it did appear that images were less noisy and less artifacty, but I really need to do a full test. Maybe more impressive though is their 2nd generation Pro Visual engine, which we first saw on last year's S24 series. So the Pro Visual engine is really interesting. It's their kind of software using the ISP of the Snapdragon hardware, which they've sort of tuned and customized exclusively with Snapdragon, and then sort of Samsung software as well, all working together in this new 2nd gen Pro Visual engine, which improves the camera performance, despite the fact that most of the hardware hasn't changed. Again. And this includes things like a double analysis noise removal and something called a spatio-temporal filter, which is straight out of Star Trek, which can detect still or moving objects, meaning less noise and blur, and also more detail in your photos and videos. And after a quick test with the S25 Ultra versus my S24 Ultra, photos and especially portraits did look noticeably more detailed, with much more natural skin tones. And in my quick low-light video test, it was a little bit less noisy, although not significantly, at least at first glance. We also get a slightly smoother zoom, punching in and out of the lenses, as well as slightly faster shutter speed, along with full 10-bit HDR video recording, and in the Pro Video mode, you can now shoot in Galaxy Log, where you can then put a LUT on afterwards, and have a much more unique looking and also much better dynamic range video. And coming to Samsung's Expert RAW app is a new virtual aperture, which will let you tweak the depth of field and brightness. Right, that's the S25 Ultra, but let's talk about the base S25 and the Plus model, because I think for a lot of you guys, these will be the ones to buy. The regular S25 starts at $799 here in the UK, and that gets you 256 gigs of storage and the now boosted 12 gigs of RAM, up from 8 previously, as well as a new 15% larger vapor chamber cooler. And considering it gets the same processor as the $1199 flagship Ultra, I'm thinking this may be the best value pick of the lot, even if it is still stuck with 25-watt charging compared to 45 on the other two. We're still looking at a 6.2-inch Full HD Plus 120Hz on the regular S25, with the Plus coming in with its bigger 6.7-inch and Quad HD Plus 120Hz screen. Although they both do also get the new HOP 3.0 rather than LTPO tech like the Ultra. And carried over from last year is the same 50 megapixel main camera, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and 10 megapixel 3x telephoto. And the cameras on the S25 and the Plus are exactly the same. Although we should still see a slight improvement to quality courtesy of that tweaked ISP with the Pro Visual engine, which we also get on the Ultra, although bear in mind that the sensors on the regular two phones are smaller. So you are still going to get a better camera with the Ultra. Both the S25 and the Plus use the same aluminium armor material as before, although of course because it is a new phone launch, there are some new colors. And these were the 4 that Samsung was showing off, with even more available exclusively on Samsung's store. So that's the hardware, but a big portion of my briefing and the hands-on time was dedicated to the new AI features. And while not all of them are new, and many of them will be available on older phones, especially when they also get updated to One UI 7, even if you're not going to use all the features, I think Samsung's probably in the lead in terms of just offering the most options to you. And this year, Samsung says they're relying on more on-device AI to keep things quicker and more secure, with full integration of Google Gemini within their now supercharged Bixby assistant. For example, pressing the side button, aka the power button, opens up this new cross-app action feature that lets you make multi-action requests. So for example, you could find out a date of an event and then add it to your calendar, or you can ask it to summarize the key points from a document or website and then read it aloud. And this all works with the native Galaxy and Google apps, as well as Spotify and WhatsApp, with more apps to follow. I think my favorite new feature though was how it can summarize YouTube videos and then read the notes back to you.
The vegan leather version has a really cool texture and the battery charges fast. The screen is really bright and it has a new thing.
What else did Tom the Tech Chap talk about?
He talks about the phone's design, battery life, performance, screen, camera and software. He also talks about the price and release date.
You've got Google Circle to search. The browser summarization can now also read it aloud back to you.
Unveils its improved Gen AI model Samsung Global Newsroom.
AI Select basically replaces Smart Select and can analyze what's on screen and then present you with context-sensitive suggestions like making a GIF off a video or crop a subject or adding generative elements to it with sketch to image. The most fun can be had with this magical visual creation area, basically their generative AI, which can mix your photos and your generated AI images together and even create AI versions of people from photos. Beyond that, one of my favorite new features is called ProScaler, and you're not going to be able to sort of play around or turn this on and off. It's all running in the background, borrowing the AI technology from their TV team to enhance and upscale your streamed video, particularly lower resolution videos. But essentially, if you take an S24 and an S25, playing, say, the same YouTube video back, it should be noticeably sharper and enhanced on the new one. But we'll have to wait and see. You've also got an audio eraser, which can eliminate background noise and unwanted voices, and there's also an auto trim, which uses AI to basically combine all the photos and videos that you want into a highlight reel, which you can decide how long you want it for. So you could say, Bixby, trim all these into a 60-second video. And here in the UK, you can now record calls with full transcriptions, including live translations. Another new feature of One UI 7, which I believe will be exclusive to the S25 series at least for now, is this Now Brief, which will give you multiple daily updates on your calendar and reminders and weather and upcoming tickets or sports results, which it gradually learns, and you can add to the Now bar on the lock screen at the bottom here, which also lets you control music or show directions. And now in the gallery, very much borrowing from the Google Pixel, you now have a Choose Best Face option, which lets you select the best image of your subject, and it uses AI to then add it back into the photo. The big question, of course, though, is how many of these features will be coming back to older phones. And generally what we see is that they're timed exclusives, and eventually older phones get them. However, we do have the much faster NPU, we do have the beefier LLM this year with the new series of phones, so we'll have to see how many of these features end up being exclusive to the new phones. So all three phones are available to pre-order right now, and I will leave a link in the description below if you want to check that out, right to Samsung's website, where you'll also see their exclusive online colors, which are definitely worth having a look at. And there are some tasty pre-order bonuses. I think they will double the storage if you order it before a certain time. So definitely worth checking out to save some money if you do fancy an upgrade. Still, full reviews coming soon, so I will withhold my final judgment, and I'm also going to be comparing it in terms of the battery and the camera to all its rivals. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you've got any questions or anything you'd like me to test in my full review, then drop a comment below. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.